I assume most of you have played or at least heard of Skyrim. One of the gaming classics, more than a decade later, it still has a vibrant and active community that regularly creates amazing fan projects like Skywind and the Real Forgotten Stories and the upcoming Skyblivion. Kingdom Come Deliverance compared to that is a much smaller and younger game, released in 2018 as Warhol Studios' first game. Despite being a niche title, KCD also developed a cult following and often comes up in discussions about immersive RPGs. I have played both of these games start to finish and seen most that they have to offer, and I love them to bits. Recently, Starfield came out, and watching its gameplay made me very nostalgic of Skyrim, so I got the itch and booted it up. But while I was playing Skyrim, another game keeps popping up in my mind and I can't help but compare them. It was Kingdom Come Deliverance. Both games fall under the genre of first-person RPG, with similar mechanics, yet the way the world treats its player is vastly different between two games. So with this video, I will explore what these differences are and what effects they had on the gaming experience and myself. Let's get started. With how long Skyrim has been out, I'm sure we all know the main plot of the game, but just in case you need a refresher. You are the Dragonborn, chosen by the gods to inherit the power of the voice to defeat the World Eater. Very straightforward, no crazy twist or reveal, just the good old chosen one trope. You got the power and you go kill the big bad dragon. And there's also a civil war going on in the background for the freedom of Skyrim from the Empire and the Thalmor. Kingdom Come Deliverance also has a very simplistic story. You are a peasant boy in Bohemia in 1403. The game started with your village being raised by humans, your parents cut down in front of you, and your father's sword being stolen. From there you embark on a journey to seek revenge for your parents and to find your father's stolen sword. However, the game is just the very first chapter of this journey, as the story is nowhere near being resolved. With that context, now we can properly look at the world design. While both being open world games, the design philosophies are vastly different, and this reflects on the gameplay. A word you always hear in discussions about Skyrim is exploration, and for a good reason. The game's magic lies in its ability to draw you into its world. You can wander off into the distance, discovering ancient tombs, dwarven ruins, bandit camps, and it doesn't feel like you're wasting your time at all. When I see the name of a new location pops up on the screen, I feel like I'm about to embark on a neat adventure that's gonna span a few hours and will bring me some nice rewards. The game created this feeling that I can just go in any direction without a goal and still find something interesting to do. The locations were seasoned with Bethesda's flagship environmental storytelling, which in reality is just a few corpses and books scattered on the ground, but they add so much life to the game. All of this makes the dungeon exploration experience absolutely immaculate. Sadly, the same thing cannot be said about the social aspect of the world. The world is so teeming with life and mystery, but the NPCs broke my immersion so often I have to actively avoid the big city. In the game's narrative, you could become the leader of almost all joinable factions, many of them famous across the continent. Everyone knows the Mages College of Winterhold, or the Companions, or the Thieves Guild. Yet even if you become their leader, the guards will still treat you like a piece of rag. You get a throwaway line here and there about your accomplishment, like getting the Azura Star, and that's about it. Or when you are decked out in Dragonbone's armor, you don't get a single comment from anyone around you. You are wearing the remnants of a disaster that can wipe out a city on its own, and people treat you like you're wearing rags still. If spending time in the dungeon makes me feel like an adventurer, spending time interacting with the NPCs reminds me that I'm playing a video game equivalent of an amusement park, and one that hates me at that. Kingdom Come Deliverance offers the exact opposite of this experience, in a good way. Taking place in medieval Bohemia, the game world of KCD is significantly smaller than compared to Skyrim, with much less locations. There are no dungeons in the video game sense, only bandit and human camps to fight and caves to sleep inside. As nice as the roaming experience of the game is, you don't really get the rush of finding new location as in Skyrim, though that doesn't mean you don't get the same amount of content. The world of Kingdom Come Deliverance is designed for a much more quest-driven gameplay, so outside of the random combat encounters and enemy camps to fight, there isn't much to see like in Skyrim. Sometimes you'll come across hidden treasures and Easter eggs, but the meat of the gameplay lies in the big cities and the villages where the NPCs are around. Fighting bandits and humans are exciting, but the combat is luckily not the main point of the game, just a part of it. Kingdom Come Deliverance has extremely strong RPG mechanics, multiple times better than Skyrim, especially in the social aspect. NPCs don't have many lines, but they will react appropriately to you and your condition. If you show up in shining armor, people will respect you more because in the 1400 running around with a suit of armor means you are wealthy or have high status. If you show up injured and covered in blood, people will ask if you've been ambushed by bandits, which, well, you most likely were, and so on. And the narrative builds your player character up in a believable manner, because you go from a peasant that couldn't fend for himself to a competent fighter that isn't afraid of danger, to tough combat and engaging quests. The world reacts to the progress I made in the story as well as the gameplay. In the forest or village, I always feel like I'm the Henry of Skalitz in 1403, exploring the land and people of Bohemia. For an open world game, the main focus of the world design should be creating a lively world with consistent systems so the player can immerse themselves in the experience. We've gone over the world design of both Kingdom Come Deliverance and Skyrim, so now let's have a look at the system that support their worlds. Skyrim has an incredible half of a character progression system. The idea of your character improving at the skills they use often has been there since Morrowind, and I have to say personally, it is my favorite type of character progression for an RPG. It makes role-playing so much cooler, since now you don't have to fill in the gap yourself on why your pure strength character is suddenly so good at talking and convincing people. Well, now you have an explanation. You've just been talking to people a lot, so naturally you got better at it. And that's about where my enthusiasm ends. Sadly, the perk trees for the skills aren't interesting enough to make them vital to the leveling up experience. With success chance removed from the game since Oblivion, the only quantifier you have for your character progression is through a sliding scale of enemies' health bar and your health bar, the armor rating number, and some stats on your crafted items. The majority of the perks are percentage increase of a number that you can't immediately see or is visible at all. The perks that do change the gameplay either do it so minimally it's hard to notice or create such a loophole it can break open the game. And outside of combat, the character progression doesn't interact much with the world in meaningful ways. With other RPGs, you would have a simple stat or skill check during a dialogue that will open up a new option or solution for the quest, but in Skyrim it's not like that. You do have speech check, but those don't really make any sense. Skill check as in comparing the number of your skill with a threshold is also non-existent. Stealth in Skyrim is also hilarious because the world is not built for it and the NPCs are not designed for it. Magic is miserable because Bethesda decided that players were having too much fun casting spells in Morrowind, and conversing with NPCs is about as exciting as chewing on wet cardboard. Now don't get me wrong, I like the methodic approach of combat with Skyrim, and the system has some depth, but that can't be all of the gameplay. You can only go from dungeon to dungeon for so long. The excitement of discovery wears off, and the only thing you have left is the subpar RPG experience. Kingdom Come Deliverance offers quite the opposite. While operating on the same principle of character progression as Skyrim, KCD uses all aspects of its setting to its advantage. As I've said before, I love gaining experience for skills that I use a lot, and the game makes it even better. KCD has one of the most robust perk systems I've ever seen. Perks are essential to the gameplay since it offers you so many crazy bonus that would completely change the game. For example, herb picking is considered a skill, and if you pick enough herbs, you can get a perk that lets you train strength, one of the core stats of the game, while picking herbs. The game is very transparent in terms of communicating progression to you. You have multiple windows with all the relevant stats of your characters so you can min-max to your heart's content. Since chance success and failure is also not a thing in Kingdom Come Deliverance, the game uses increasingly insane perks to reward you for your progress, some of which completely change the way you would play the game. Instead of bending over backward to balance the gameplay, KCD lets you train your character till you have late game stats before you even begin the first main quest. And all of this checks out narratively, since Henry, your player character, starts off as an inexperienced farm boy, and he must somehow rise to the occasion to avenge his family and to protect the people he loves, so it makes sense that he would train hard before setting out. all the skills you develop have a function in interactions with the world, from activities like gambling, trading, and to skill checks through dialogue. Investing in a skill is never a waste of time because you will always be rewarded handsomely for it. The game actively encourages you to roleplay your character. Maybe you want to play as an alcoholic hunter that needs a drink to steady his aim, or maybe a rogue that loves gambling a little too much, or a chivalrous knight that brews his own potions. You can be whoever you want within the setting's limit. To sum it up, Skyrim did an amazing job at creating a beautiful sandbox, but it fails to create a support system around that sandbox. The bare-bone writing of NPCs, lack of information on progress, and interaction between the progression and the world ultimately took me out of the experience. Kingdom Come Deliverance, on the other hand, built a simplistic world that is much smaller with less locations, but the game makes up for it with a believable world and a robust support system. The world has observable rules that you can follow and or exploit to your benefits, and your effort will always be rewarded nicely. The sandbox is smaller, but you are given much more tools to play with, and they are very consistent and substantial. So in short, I think I have a reason to believe that building a vast and beautiful world is not as important as implementing consistent and transparent systems to support that world. In the end, the gameplay matters more than where it takes place. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.